My name is Amber Bassett. I'm 28 years old, and I've been attending SouthCrest since August of last year. A little backstory on my life. My family and I have lived in Georgia since I was 7 years old. I have two loving parents and one sister. My parents did everything right, raising us in church. I grew up attending a Southern Baptist church in our area. I attended that church every Sunday and Wednesday and other days of the week for various activities. When I was in second grade, I was baptized. And I say that without saying I asked Jesus into my heart because I don't ever remember actually doing that. I don't ever remember having a desire to have a personal relationship with Christ at that time. I simply followed along with what a lot of the kids in my church, my age, were doing at the time. And let me just say, there's nothing wrong with asking Jesus into your heart at a young age, if that's where your heart is at. However, I don't think it was for me. Fast forward into my teenage years, I'm highly involved in my youth group, going on mission trips, youth group events, Bible studies. My entire social life was based within my youth group. One day in my junior year of high school, the youth group I was involved in was a part of one of those programs where you tour all the different youth groups in the area. I remember we were at some random church watching a guy sing a solo while playing a piano. Randomly, it hit me. I realized that all this time I'd been going through the motions, doing everything I should be doing, but never connecting those actions with having a personal desire to know God. So I pulled my youth pastor outside and told him what was on my heart, and he helped lead me to Christ that night. Weeks later, I would be baptized again. Fast forward a year and a half later, I moved off to college and began a whole new chapter in my life. I was enjoying a modest college experience and somehow, by the grace of God, passing my classes. And towards the end of my freshman year, the one thing happened to me that a lot of people hope would happen to them when they go off to college. I met someone. We started our relationship and it felt like I had met my person. We dated off and on for 8.5 years until one day it abruptly ended and my world was turned upside down. My life felt like it had shattered. No amount or type of encouragement could help me. For 2 months, I let the enemy shove me into a very dark place. I wasn't taking care of myself. I put all other relationships in my life on pause. My job was suffering, you name it. What's funny is that during that time, I was actually praying and spending time in the Word more than I ever had been in my life. But unfortunately, if any of you have figured out, doing that with conditions, and God doesn't work like that. He uses our circumstances for good, but he does not bargain with us. Fast forward a few months later, I go on a solo trip to Yellowstone. I'd always wanted to go and figured it would be a great place to try out my recently discovered passion of wildlife photography. I go on the trip. The animals were incredible. My time there gave me a much needed boost of encouragement. A week or so later, a work mentor of mine was asking me what was going to be the next new thing now that the excitement of my trip had come and gone. She asked me if I was involved in a church. I told her no, that finding a new church sounded a bit too intimidating and too much stress for the stage of life that I was in. She said, "You have the courage to fly across the country by yourself, go into Yellowstone, but you don't want to sit through a church service." And as much as that stung, she wasn't wrong. A short time later, I find myself here at SouthCrest. I decided to check out this women's small group, Ladies of the Vine, and let me tell you, it was everything it needed to be for me. A group of like-minded women filled with multiple great perspectives on the Bible and on life. And that was in August of last year, and I've been coming ever since. What brought me here today to share my testimony, for those of you who may or may not remember, earlier in the year, we heard from Allison, who's also a member of Ladies of the Vine. She shared her testimony with us, speaking on the impact of a breakup she went through in finding God again. Listening to her testimony was like listening to my own play out. When she said that she literally heard God say to her, "I'm here, I've always been here," literally felt like God was speaking to me through her in the most direct way I have ever felt from him. And it's crazy because those words are ones I've heard a million times from my parents, friends, mentors, from the Bible. But for some reason, during her testimony, it was like I was fully prepared to hear him tell her and tell me those words. "I'm here, I've always been here." In my daily life, I'm attempting to seek out Jesus in everything that I do. Of course, that's not easy. In fact, the phrase, seek God and the rest will fall into place, often drives me crazy. I'm a very logical person, so my mind jumps to questions like, what does that look like? How do I seek Him? There's decisions that have to be made, relationships to develop, and life to live. I struggle with not having a tangible person to speak with sometimes. I have, however, been reading my Bible, doing daily devotions, praying, participating in a life group, and most of all, trusting that God has my best interest in mind. I can go on and on about what God has been teaching me, that His ways are higher than mine, Isaiah 55, 8 through 9, that He has a prosperous plan for my life, Jeremiah 29:11, that He's holding me up through it all, Isaiah 41:10, and that when I go through deep waters, He will be with me, Isaiah 43:2. Thankfully, God doesn't leave me or forsake me. He's called me by name. He's got thick skin. He chooses to be there for me no matter how many times I've cursed Him, have been ungrateful. No matter how much or how little I pursue a relationship with Him, He never stops pursuing me. But if you don't hear anything else from my testimony, hear this. Never underestimate your story and the impact it can have on someone. God has used my parents, my family, friends, mentors, this church, and testimonies like Allison's to make an impact on my life. There's no telling who your story will reach. Thank you for listening.